On August 21st, 2017, the shadow of the moon will pass from the west coast to the east coast of the US. Our blue sky will turn black as night and fill with stars, and there will be a hole in the sky where the sun used to be, surrounded by the fiery ring of the sun's corona, a total eclipse of the sun. This will truly be a historic event. Accounts of solar eclipses date way back in the written record. The early Mesopotamians wrote that the sun was put to shame during the solar eclipse of the 14th century BCE, and it may have started the sun worship of the Egyptian pharaoh Akhenaten. Ancient Chinese astrologers paid with their lives if they failed to predict a solar eclipse and portend the fate of their emperors whose symbol was the sun. The earliest date of a specific event in human history, a battle between the armies of Lydia and Media, occurred on May 28, 535 BCE, when a solar eclipse caused the soldiers to lay down their arms and declare a truce. So, how does it happen? During a total solar eclipse, the moon moves between the Earth and the sun. When this happens, the disk of the moon appears to perfectly cover the disk of the sun, even though the sun is much larger than the moon. But how is this possible? The sun is 400 times bigger than the moon, but by sheer coincidence, the moon is 390 times closer to Earth. Size and distance cancel each other out so that the moon and sun appear to be almost exactly the same size. Every time the moon orbits the Earth, once every 27.3 days, it has to pass between the Earth and the sun, a stage called the new moon phase. And every time it passes, the new moon has a chance to block out the sun. Most of the time, the moon passes a little above or a little below the sun, but if they align perfectly, the shadow of the moon will make a narrow path across Earth, and those in the shadows will see a total solar eclipse. Just like on the night side of the Earth, the sky during a total eclipse is black and filled with stars. But while the moon perfectly covers the surface of the sun, it doesn't block out the sun's outer atmosphere, its corona, which appears as a fiery ring around the dark disk of the moon.
The honeybee. An architectural marvel, the honeybee's design is an elegant fusion of form and function. A proboscis for ferreting out nectar stored deep in a flower's folds, and powerful mandibles for eating, feeding young, and manipulating wax. Two compound eyes are comprised of 6,900 lenses, and covered with sensory hairs for detecting wind speed. 3 additional eyes, called ocelli, receive light signals for orientation. 4 wings clasp together with tiny hooks and beat up to 230 times a second. For defense, a double-edged serrated sting, which she can use only once, at the cost of her own life. Hind legs are broadened into special baskets for carrying heavy cargo of pollen to the hive. Feathery hairs coat the body and build up a static charge as the bee flies. When the bee lands on a flower, pollen literally jumps onto her body.
They're just this magnificent little engineered thing, just perfect for all the things they can do. And as they go through life and change their tasks, these different anatomies come into play.
There is a force sufficiently powerful to move the oceans of this world. It is a force not of this earth. The moon is large enough to generate gravity and with sufficient force to pull on the earth 230,000 miles away. As the moon orbits the Earth, its gravity sweeps across the face of our planet. Its power drags a great bulge of oceanic water in its wake. The rising tide. The River Amazon in Brazil. On some special days, the gravitational forces of the moon and the sun pull together to extraordinary effect. A growing tidal wave from the ocean is being forced 200 miles inland. This is a tidal bore. Fortunately, tidal bores are rare, but the moon does create strong tides out in the world's oceans on every day of the year. The Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia. The tides here are the largest in the world and have a profound effect on marine life, creating a rich feeding ground. A feast that attracts some of the largest diners on the planet. Humpback whales.